the case of Mike Williams. It's so crazy how everything unfolded and how the people responsible truly almost got away with this. This case went unsolved for nearly 2 decades. He was quite popular throughout high school, especially with the ladies. But there was only one lady that he was ever really interested in, and that's Denise Merrill. They begin dating, they fall in love, they get married. You know the story. And one of his closest friends, Brian Winchester, he ended up being one of the first people that were called when Mike went missing. Mike left to go duck hunting. This time, he didn't come home when he said he was going to. Early that afternoon, Denise starts calling friends and family to see if anyone had heard from him. Brian and his dad came across Mike's boat, but there was still no sign of Mike himself. Maybe Mike had been eaten by an alligator. And so naturally, a lot of people just believed this, except for one person, and that's Mike's mother, Cheryl. But you know who did seem to give up? Denise. And 6 months after Mike disappeared, a local fisherman uncovered something huge. It was a pair of waders in the area that was consistent with where Mike disappeared from. Only about a week after Mike's waders and jacket were found in the lake, Denise cashed out on his 3 life insurance policies. When investigators were going over the evidence of what was found in Mike's boat, they noticed that 2 life jackets were found. So who was the second life jacket for? Is it possible it could have been for his lifelong friend and hunting partner, Brian Winchester? Brian sold Mike a $1 million life insurance policy. Investigators found out that now Brian and Denise were dating. And then in 2005, Brian and Denise end up getting married. Luckily, by 2012, Denise and Brian were talking about separating, but Brian wasn't going to accept that. Brian hid in the back seat of Denise's car. Then after she began driving, he ends up pointing a gun at her head and tells her to drive. And she knows that if she does, he is going to take her somewhere and kill her. Denise managed to convince Brian that everything was going to be okay. Her plan worked. Brian left her vehicle without harming her. Brian was arrested and charged with kidnapping and aggravated assault with a firearm. In October of 2017, Brian made a full confession in exchange for full immunity. But after 16 years of waiting, he finally led investigators to Mike's body, which turns out he had buried on the edge of the water at Carr Lake. He only received 20 years. Now, Denise, on the other hand, is kind of a different story. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And as I'm sure you can imagine, this came as a huge relief to everyone, but especially Cheryl. Denise filed an appeal to overturn her conviction, and she won. Denise only has to serve 30 years in prison rather than her original life sentence. I'm just happy that Mike was returned to his family and given the proper burial that he deserved.